of a contingencies fund, sinking fund, special fund, or trust fund, cash management including banking, deposit, refunds, set-off, write-off, and investment of public monies. It provides for the management of public debt and contingency liability, grants, the accounting, reporting, and audition of public accounts, the oversight of statutory bodies, surcharge, the functions of the internal audit unit, the establishment of the inquiry committee and appeals tribunal, and public asset management. In other words, Madam President, this bill is the heartbeat of prudent public finance management. It contains 17 parts. The preliminary provisions of the bill are set out in clauses 1 to 4, and this act binds the Crown. Clauses 5 to 12 of the bill provides for the functions and powers of the Minister of Finance, the Director of Finance, the Accountant General, and an auditing and an accounting officer. Part 2 of the bill sets out the various funds that may be established with respect to monies belonging to the government or held in trust by the government for another person or entity. The money that may be received into or paid out of the consolidated fund as specified under clauses 13 and 14 of the bill. Part 3 of the bill makes provision for the fiscal policy and the fiscal policy statement. Part 4 contains preparation for budget, including provisions for fiscal and budget survey, circular, and guidelines. Part 5 makes provisions for the preparation and approval of the estimates, while Part 6 provides the execution of an appropriation law. Part 7 makes provision for cash management, banking, deposit, refund, set-off, write-off, and investment. Part 9 provides for the acquisition, use, and safe custody of public assets, debts due to government, inquiry and report on malfeasance, use and safe custody of public assets. Part 10 provides for public debt and contingency liability. Part 11 makes provision for the receipt of grants. Part 12 provides for accounting, reporting, and audit of public accounts. Part 13 provides for statutory body. Part 14 provides for inquiry committee. Part 15 provides for surcharge. Part 16 provides for the establishment of an appeals tribunal. And Part 17 provides for miscellaneous, as well as repeal, transition, and savings. Madam President, this bill has all the desired components for prudent, transparent, and accountable financial management. It was first introduced in the Parliament in 2017 and has since been circulated for comments, which were incorporated in the final draft. It forms part of a broader reform process currently being undertaken by government and is also a requirement to attract investment and financing. This bill, when enacted, will repeal the Finance Administration Act. Madam President, so I present this bill for consideration of this Honorable House.
Senators, the question is that the Public Finance Management Bill be read a second time. Honorable Leader of Government Business. I now put the question. Senator Francis.
Very brief. Madam, through you, I'd like to thank the leader of government business for the presentation and proposal of this important bill. Public finance management refers to the set of values, laws, rules, systems, and processes used by a government to mobilize revenue, allocate public funds, undertake public spending, and account for funds and audit results. The objectives of establishing an effective public finance system are to maintain or maintenance of aggregate fiscal discipline in the first objective of a proper public finance management system. It should ensure that aggregate levels of tax collection and public spending are consistent with targets for the fiscal deficit and do not generate unsustainable levels of public borrowing. Secondly, a public finance management system should ensure that public resources are allocated to agreed strategic priorities. In other words, that allocative efficiency is achieved. Thirdly, the public finance management system should ensure that operational efficiency is achieved in the sense of achieving maximum value for money in the delivery of services. And finally, the public finance management system should follow due process and should be seen to do so by being transparent with information and ensure information is publicly accessible and by applying democratic checks and balances to ensure accountability. Madam President, the Act mandates This proposed act mandates that the government move to a sustainable fiscal situation through prudent management of public finances, including a sustainable budget balance and overall debt. It mandates a hard budget constraint in the annual budget and resources and requires that the budget be framed in a medium-term framework. It also requires that the Minister of Finance commit to a sustainable fiscal path in the midterm, both in the annual budget, and present a mid-year review of the process of the budget and of fiscal operations. It is noted that while the Act does not include any fiscal rule, it includes some procedural rules to strengthen prudent fiscal management. In reading the Act, Madam President, it was also noted that there are provisions for increased accountability. The section on responsibilities has been strengthened. The Act provides for enhanced transparency through budget and fiscal documents being put in the public domain as soon as possible. Some timelines have been established to achieve this, and this is very welcome. Also, financial oversight of the Minister over state-owned enterprises and other not-for-profit government-owned agencies has been significantly enhanced, and that too is a welcome change. Madam, in that regard, I reference page 26, number 6, on the powers of the Minister. And there are a number of powers given to the Minister, and when one compares, some of those powers were not included in the Finance Administration Act. In the interest of time, I will not delve into all those powers. However, Madam, through you, I believe we need to acquaint ourselves with the powers given to the Minister, as, like I said, some of those powers were not included in the Finance Administration Act, and it is heartening to see that there is clarity here on the functions of the Minister such that everybody would know what is expected of the Minister in that regard. Financial oversight of the Minister over state-owned enterprises and other not-for-profit government-owned agencies has been significantly enhanced, and that is where I refer to page 26. The Act should strengthen the process of fiscal consolidation by maintaining that the Minister of Finance shall commit to a prudent fiscal policy and a sustainable level of debt in the medium term. This is not included there, but while the Act does not include any numerical target, some other provisions strengthen this process through a more rigorous budget process, a hard budget constraint, and a more orderly process of adjusting the budget. And in terms of adjusting the budget, there's a 6-month review that is allocated or that is provided for in the Act. So it is not just about completing the budgetary process on an annual basis, but there's also now a requirement under this new Act to do a revision at 6-monthly interval, and that is mandated there. So this is very, very important and very heartening, so it will give an opportunity to revise strategies, revise priorities, and ensure that the government's programs are actually trending in the right direction insofar as the original budget is concerned, and where the trends are not favorable, adjustments can be made to ensure that the year-end outcomes are achieved. Madam President, under Section 28, Fiscal and Budget Survey, Section 28, and it states under 1, the responsible minister may cause the prescribed fiscal and budget survey to be issued prior to the circulation of the budget circular. And under 2, it says a fiscal and budget survey issued under subsection 1 comprises a review of the budget performance of the previous 6 months, the main budgetary developments, fiscal actions required in the following year, and a broad guidance for the formulation of the budget. C, an outline of the economic and budget priorities of the government, including the challenges of preparing the budget. D, recommendations for gender equality, and C, the fiscal and debt targets. So all these are more details of requirements for completing the budget to ensure that there is a more comprehensive view of the budget process, and that is very, very welcome, Madam President. Madam President, I turn your attention to page 40 and 41. Approval of estimates, and if we look at clause 42, subsections 1 to 7, and I'll just read one. For the purpose of section 79(1) of the Constitution of St. Lucia, the minister shall no later than 30 days before the end of the fiscal year lay estimates before Parliament. And the other clauses speaks to what is required, the timelines that are required, and the tightening of the procedure there such that timelines can be met, so there will be no delays insofar as presentation of the budget. The bill also provides for the treatment of the budget in extenuating circumstances and sets out certain parameters and limits. Timelines have also been established for presentation to Parliament on the appropriation bill, as I mentioned. It is mandated that the appropriation bill is passed by the Parliament by the 31st of March so that the budget can be implemented by 1st of April, and that is mandated. The start of which is, of course, 1st of April, the start of the fiscal year. It is hoped that these limits and deadlines will be strictly respected, Madam President, because we do know that even under the Finance Administrative Act, we have some timelines in there, and a lot of the time the timelines are not respected. There are requirements for committees to meet, to oversee what is happening insofar as financial management is concerned. There are requirements for audits to be done and audit reports to be presented in a timely manner, and it doesn't always happen. So it is hoped that the fact that those timelines have been reinforced in there, that we will reach a situation where timelines will be respected such that the business of the country can continue or transacted in a manner which is in strict accordance with the Act. Provisions have also been strengthened so that the policy intent of the originally approved budget cannot be changed without the approval of Parliament. That is important. So that's a very important clause here. Requirements for transparency have also been enhanced, for example, by mandating greater reporting requirements and putting more information in the public domain as soon as possible. So it is very, very heartening, again, Madam President, that in terms of engaging the public and making sure there is transparency in what happens with the budgetary process, and when changes are made, that, you know, everyone is kept informed, especially approval of Parliament is obtained. I believe all that is a move in the right direction. Accountability requirements have been strengthened both in the Ministry of Finance and in line entities. For example, on page 43, Madam President, if we look at 43, 47, 1 and 2, it says the government agency included in the appropriation law shall not exceed the amount allocated to it in the budget. And on the 2, an appropriation in the appropriation law must be spent only for the purpose it is appropriated. So this act ensures that funds that are allocated for a specific purpose is not redirected to other uses without, if that is done, then it will contravene that provision of the Act. Exceeding budget allocation is strictly prohibited, Madam President, in that instance. Supervision and oversight over the state-owned enterprises and other statutory bodies have been significantly strengthened. And it is also noted that roles and responsibilities of different agents have been spelled out more clearly and exhaustively. You know, reviewing the previous act or the existing act, if you like, it is not, the clarity is not there. So I quite like the approach to ensuring roles are clarified and there's no ambiguity in terms of who is supposed to do what. Madam President, it was noted, and I believe the Leader of Government Business did mention that the act is more policy-oriented compared to the Finance Administration Act, which is compliance-oriented in nature. It contains procedural fiscal rules and mandates the government to move to a sustainable fiscal stance and debt over the medium term and indicate the fiscal strategy it intends to follow in that regard. This is consistent with the statement by the Minister in his annual address. Both fiscal policy and budget are mandated to have medium-term frameworks, and it mandates the budget and appropriation bill to be approved, like I said, before the start of the fiscal year. Madam President, the Act lays down principles of budget execution and warrant system. The warrant system is streamlined and committed, and commitment controls are strengthened. There is a requirement for the principle of Treasury single account to be followed and to be maintained. And I welcome all these. I think also the Leader of Government Business did mention, and it is stated quite clearly in the Act, that it establishes a system of cash planning and management, which is very critical. And provisions have been made for the establishment of several important funds. There is a fully funded contingency plan contained within the Act, contingency to take care of unforeseen requirements, unforeseen events, unforeseen expenditure, and that's very important. The sinking fund is mentioned in there to plan for debt service as state debts fall due. And we all know that, of course, we've had a sinking fund, but the sinking fund has not been, sorry? It does, sorry, Madam President, can I be present uninterruptedly, Madam President? I was told the sinking fund has sunk. Madam President, thankfully, the Act makes provision for the sinking fund to be strictly adhered to, such that when the important aspect of fiscal debts fall due, those commitments would have been provided for in the sinking fund, such that we can continue as a country to maintain our credit worthiness within those entities that are supporting us with funding from time to time. Madam President, there's also a special fund for a special fund established for a specific purpose, example, annual allocation, for example, for provision of laptops for school children. So the provision which provides for a special fund gives, of course, the Minister of Finance the latitude to allocate special funding for specific purposes. And I just use the laptops as an example. So I am quite happy for that inclusion, and also it speaks to a trust fund, you know, establishment of trust funds. Madam President, it is also noted that there are provisions in the Act for remedying of breaches. So therefore, persons who are required to administer the Act, if they do not comply, there are, of course, surcharges. And yes, it is under the heading of surcharge, page 70. And it goes on in detail to talk about the power of the surcharge, grounds for surcharge, notification, withdrawal, recovery, and appeals tribunal, and making sure that when surcharges are applied, that the law of natural justice prevails such that people have an opportunity to defend themselves before the requisite penalties are applied. So, Madam President, there is the section on procurement. I think I remember seeing a section there on procurement and asset management. On page 55, disposal of assets. It speaks to disposal of assets, but I will not spend much time there. But it is evident that the fact that the Act provides for a process for disposal of assets, that we already have separate legislation to discuss disposable assets this afternoon. I think the next item we'll be discussing this afternoon is exactly that, this procurement and disposal of assets. As we well know, if assets are not procured properly and if they are not disposed of properly, we invite malfeasance, misfeasance, corruption, misappropriation. So therefore, there must be a robust structure in place to ensure that that aspect of the public business is administered in a manner that is conducive to ensuring that all goes well. Madam President, in looking at the Act, I would have been comfortable if perhaps the regulations would have accompanied the Act, so at least we would have a sense as to because without regulations we cannot add teeth to the Act. So presumably, if this Act, not presumably, this Act, we are told, repeals the Finance Administration Act. And the fact that it does, it therefore means that whatever regulations we have underpinning the Finance Administration Act, they would fall away and would require a new set of regulations to support this Act. So it would have been useful if we had such so that we could review and discuss and debate, but they haven't come to hand, and presumably at some stage we will be privy to that important information. So, Madam President, I thank you for your indulgence, and these are just a few of my comments and observations as it relates to the Act in question. I thank you.
Senator Ogier.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm good. Madam President, I would like to rise in support of this bill. As a matter of fact, I am extremely encouraged by its intent and its rigor. And to demonstrate the importance of this piece of legislation, I would like to share the thinking of the Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, IMF, regarding the need for strong fiscal frameworks in these countries. At the 2017 high-level conference with CARICOM ministers of finance, it was made very clear, and this is a recurring message which has come to us several times, including from the IMF, that our political cycles are undermining our fiscal stability, and that there is a need for strong fiscal policy to be perpetuated in successive administrations for us to get out of our current cycle of low wage and high debt and low growth. Madam President, some time ago in this House, I had cause to point out to the House the fact that our growth rates over the last several years and several political cycles had in fact not sustained a consistent growth trend, that we had massive fluctuations, negative and positive, and in most cases not experiencing growth above 2%. Our target growth for this economy should be closer to 5% if we are to grow ourselves out of debt and poverty. And our statistics in both of those regards have been trending in the wrong direction. So I am very, very pleased that we are inserting into our processes a stronger framework for fiscal discipline, and that fiscal discipline will not be the purview of any single minister of finance or any single administration, but in fact will have to be carried over from one to the next. Too often, promising reforms have been cut short by policy reversals, and this is underlying our lackluster economic performance over several years and across several changes of administration. We've seen policy reversals which have been driven by political pressure and not necessarily what is the best thing for the country. We need strong institutions, Madam President, and this is a piece of legislation that will strengthen the institutions of public finance. And the overriding recommendation which I would make is to have as much latitude as possible for participation by civil society. There is nothing to be lost by opening up the process of consultation to public scrutiny and allowing participation by the general population. That is not, or certainly by their representative organizations on whose consultation independent senators are appointed. So we need stronger institutions. This makes for the institutionalization of processes, removing them somewhat out of the political realm, which I think is an advancement for us and a sign of our maturity. Well-designed fiscal rules can help to guide the consolidation efforts. Indeed, such a rule targeting a reduction in public debt, for example, to within the 60% guideline over the medium term has been introduced in several countries. And just so we don't think of this as theory, I just want to mention that the IMF in particular mentions the examples of St. Kitts, Nevis, Grenada, and Jamaica, all of whom have experienced a decline in public debt because the policies from one administration have carried over into the next. I think, Madam Chair, that the experiences of these countries, and they are large and small, Grenada being a neighbor of comparable size, St. Kitts being one of the smaller economies in the OECS, and Jamaica, our big sister to the north, there's enough best practice there that we can draw on their experiences, which have been extremely positive, and you see it reflected in their growth rates almost immediately. The report on the conference, the 2017 conference, also makes mention of the usefulness of fiscal councils, which would be a natural extension of this piece of legislation, and I would commend it to our consideration. Madam President, excuse me, I make these comments in full knowledge of the fact that whoever prevails at the next general election is going to inherit an economy under serious stress. And that stress is pre-existing as well as related to the current stringencies that we have with COVID. But we have to address our deficiencies. Our deficiencies are in fiscal weakness, they are in physical infrastructure, and they are in service delivery. And if improving the fiscal discipline as provided for in this piece of legislation comes to pass, we will all be better off, and we will be able to offer a brighter economic future to our citizens and our business communities, particularly, who are desperately in need of a resumption of growth. With that, Madam Chair, Madam President, excuse me once again, I believe I have concluded my remarks. I thank you very much.
Senator Sinclair.
Yes, Madam President. I rise in unconditional support of this new piece of legislation to replace the Finance Administration Act, save for one passing comment on clause number 59 on page 55, which refers to the minister having reasonable evidence to believe that there is malfeasance and shall so direct the Director of Audit to make an appropriate inquiry. There's a little bit of a consideration here as far as definition of malfeasance. And I am not contending that it's a typo, but there's every reason to believe that consideration should have been given to the minister directing either the Director of Public Prosecution or the Attorney General, both of whom are trained attorneys traditionally, to actually carry out that inquiry. I rest my case.
You? Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Yes, Madam President, I just want to enlighten on a question that was, or recommendation that was made, that since this does not have the regulations, I want to inform this Senate, Madam President, that the former regulations apply. And if you look under savings, page 78, 115, it allows for us to recognize the regulations, which usually comes in the form of any other statutory instrument that at the time existed prior to this bill becoming in force is still applicable. It's only the Finance Act itself that it has repealed. So the regulations, the old regulations still apply. Also, Section 59, if I might provide a little bit of clarity on page 55, the sentence reads, where the minister has reasonable evidence to believe that a malfeasance has occurred in connection with public assets, the minister shall request the Director of Audit to inquire into and report on the matter. So it may still go to the legal person, Director of Public Prosecution or whoever, after a report has been submitted. Thank you, Madam President.
Senators, the question is that the Public Finance Management Bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye.
Aye.
As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to provide for the administration of public finance management, the formulation of a fiscal policy and the issuance of a fiscal policy statement, the preparation for budget, the approval of estimates, the execution of the appropriation law, the regulation and control of public monies by the establishment of a contingencies fund, sinking fund, special fund or trust fund, cash management including banking, deposit, refund, set-off, write-off and investment of public monies, the management of public debt and contingent liability, grants, the auditing, reporting and auditing of public accounts, the oversight of statutory bodies, surcharge, the functions of the internal audit unit, the establishment of the inquiry committee and appeals tribunal, public asset management and for related matters.
Senators, we will take it clause by clause. Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Acts bind the crown.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Clause 4.
Conflict of laws.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Part 1, clauses 5 to 12.
Administration.
Part 1, clauses 5 to 12 stand part of the bill. Part 2, clauses 13 to 25.
Public monies.
Part 2, clauses 13 to 25 stand part of the bill. Part 3, clauses 26 to 27.
Fiscal policy.
Part 3, clauses 26 to 27 stand part of the bill. Part 4, clauses 28 to 30.
Preparation for budget.
Part 4, clauses 28 to 30 stand part of the bill. Part 5, clauses 31 to 35.
Approval of estimates.
Part 5, clauses 31 to 35 stand part of the bill. Part 6, clauses 36 to 47.
Execution of appropriation law.
Part 6, clauses 36 to 47 stand part of the bill. Part 7, clauses 48 to 50.
Internal audit unit.
Part 7, clauses 48 to 50 stand part of the bill. Part 8, clauses 51 to 56.
Cash management, banking, deposit, refund, set-off, write-off and investment.
Part 8, clauses 51 to 56 stand part of the bill. Part 9, clauses 57 to 61.
Asset management.
Part 9, clauses 57 to 61 stand part of the bill. Part 10, clauses 62 to 70.
Public debt and contingent liability.
Part 10, clauses 62 to 70 stand part of the bill. Part 11.
Grants.
Part 11, clauses 71 to 73. Part 11, clauses 71 to 73 stand part of the bill. Part 12, clauses 74 to 77.
Accounting, reporting and auditing public accounts.
Part 12, clauses 74 to 77 stand part of the bill. Part 13, clauses 78 to 86.
Statutory body.
Part 13, clauses 78 to 86 stand part of the bill. Part 14, clauses 87 to 91.
Inquiry committee.
Part 14, clauses 87 to 91 stand part of the bill. Part 15, clauses 92 to 98.
Surcharge.
Part 15, clauses 92 to 98 stand part of the bill. Part 16, clauses 99 to 111.
Appeals Tribunal.
Part 16, clauses 99 to 111 stand part of the bill. Part 17, clauses 112 to 115.
Miscellaneous.
Part 17, clauses 112 to 115 stand part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Senators, the question is that the committee rise and the bill be reported. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Senators, I beg to report that the Public Finance Bill went through committee stage without amendment. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Senators, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Public Finance Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This Act may be cited as the Public Finance Management Act 2020.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move the second reading of a bill shortly entitled Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment. Madam President, this bill is to amend the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, number 19 of 2015, and to give it a commencement date. This act provides procedures for efficient public procurement and for assets disposal by public entities. It was mentioned in the previous bill, the Public Finance Management Bill. Public procurement is mentioned in that bill as well. Madam President, government is proposing June 1st, 2021 as the commencement date for the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, number 19 of 2015. Under this bill, the short title and the interpretation remains the same, with a few small amendments in the long title. Section 1 amends subsection 4 by deleting the words Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act and by substituting the words Public Procurement Act. So we are removing and asset disposal in the long title. Section 2, subsection 5 is amended to include the designation 1 and definitions for complaints, complainant, consultancy services, international competitive tendering, list of suppliers, national competitive tendering, and a new subsection 2 which makes reference to the definition of publish to mean includes publish by electronic means. Part 1 is amended by A, deleting the heading for Division 1 and by substituting the following. Division 1, functions of the Minister, Director, Procuring Entity, Procurement Unit and Accounting Officer, and B, by inserting immediately after the heading for Division 1 the following new sections 4A, 4B, and 4C. 4A states the functions of the minister, 4B states the powers of the minister, and 4C states the delegation of powers. Section 5 is amended to provide that the Director of Public Procurement may issue instructions under which the goods, services, or works may be procured, subject to directives given by the minister. Also, a new section is provided for the publication of a notice containing the public procurement plan of each procuring entity for each financial year. New sections 1A and 1B are inserted under section 12 of the Act to provide for the cases where the recommendations of the Tender Evaluation Committee are accepted or where those recommendations contain dissenting views. Section 14 of the Act is amended to reflect that the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance or his or her nominee is the chairperson of the Central Public Procurement Board. It also establishes the composition of the Public Procurement Committee. A new section 27A provides for the evaluation of a works contract by a consultant. Section 51 of the Act is amended so that this section applies to goods, works, and services of a minor value, and also to specify that the lowest price quotation should be selected by the accounting officer. Clause 7, Madam President, provides that the minister may issue directives for the procurement of goods, services, and works by direct public procurement of goods, services, and work, or for an emergency procurement on the grounds specified in the Act. Section 35 is amended to replace the words Act of God with the words force majeure. Clause 7, Section 54 of the Act is amended to provide an exception to the use of open competitive tendering where it is unlikely to attract sufficient competition in minor value procurements. A new Section 57A is provided for the maintenance of a list of suppliers by a procuring entity. Clause 7 also amends Section 58 of the Act to stipulate that the use of restricted tendering is subject to the procedure for failed public procurement under Section 83 of the Act. Also, Section 59 is amended to make the two-stage tendering process discretionary. Clause 7 also amends the bill to make it reflect current procurement best practice. Clause 8 of the bill repeals asset disposal, and Clause 9 of the bill is amended to provide the monetary amounts specified for minor, immediate, and major value public procurement. Clause 10 of the bill amends the Act to replace references to regional or international competitive tendering with references to international competitive tendering in keeping with the new definition introduced by the IL for words international competitive tendering. Madam President, efficient and effective public procurement and asset disposal is critical for the proper functioning of any organization, particularly that of government agencies. It is with this in mind that our government has found it extremely important to amend the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, as well as activate its enforcement. With these considerations, Madam President, I present the bill to this Honorable House for approval.
Senators, the question is that the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act, Cap 15.10.
Again, we will take it by clauses. Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Clause 3.
Amendment of long title.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Clause 4.
Amendment of Section 1.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Clause 5.
Amendment of Section 2.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill. Clause 6.
Amendment of Part 1.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill. Clause 7.
Amendment of Part 2.
Clause 7 stands part of the bill. Clause 8.
Repeal of Part 5.
Clause 8 stands part of the bill. Clause 8 stands part of the bill. Clause 9.
Amendment of Schedule 1.
Clause 9 stands part of the bill. Clause 10.
Amendment of Principal Act.
Clause 10 stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Senators, the question is the committee rise and the bill be reported. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Senators, I beg to report that the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill went through committee stage without amendment. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Senators, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same as follows. This Act may be cited as the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Act 2020.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that the Senate stand adjourned, sine die.
Senators, the question is that this House do stand adjourned, sine die. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Sitting adjourned.
Thank you so much for staying with the broadcast. We've come to the end of the afternoon session of the sitting of Senate. The afternoon session saw the second reading of the Public Finance Management Bill, which, according to the Leader of Government Business, Senator the Honorable Mary Isaac, encourages prudent financial management. Independent Senator Mauricio Thomas Francis highlighted the objectives of such a bill, including the maintenance of fiscal discipline, ensuring public resources are allocated to priority areas and are not redirected to other areas, achieving maximum value of money, maximum value for money for services, and allowing for transparency with info, ensuring checks and balances to ensure accountability. She also indicated that the timelines within the bill for implementation were welcomed, as well as the oversight for the minister responsible welcome changes for her as well. The senator noted, however, that the powers given to the minister makes it easier to understand the minister's role and responsibilities as it relates to the bill. Independent Senator Dr. Adrian Oje threw his support behind the bill as well. He spoke to the IMF's call for strong fiscal management and policy, and he noted that it was a good thing that the country was moving in this direction. However, he explained that the political cycle was undermining such, so some form of procedure had to be put in place to ensure that this does not happen. He indicated that to grow the country out of debt and poverty, that a growth rate closer to 5% would be required. However, over the years, the St. Lucia has been inconsistent in maintaining a 5% growth rate. Another area he indicated which needed addressing. He highlighted the need for stronger institutions and called for the country's fiscal inefficiencies to be addressed. Opposition Senator Honorable St. Clair also said through his support behind the bill. Another bill up for the second reading was the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Bill, which was amended. To one of the amendments included the removal of asset disposal from the long title of the bill, along with other amendments including interpretation and a number of clauses to ensure the efficiency of the bill. Once again, thank you so much for joining us for the sitting of Senate. To have a wonderful afternoon and join us next time. Until the next broadcast, Janelle Norville.